one of the features, I guess, of MyBama is that it has an automatic logout feature built into it. The default for that is set to 10 or 15 minutes. That can be annoying. So, the next ninja tip, go to, once you're logged into MyBama, go up to My Account, which is up here in the top left, click on that, and you can change your timeout preferences. And I changed mine to 180 minutes. Typically, I'm working on MyBama sitting at my desk in my office. It's not a shared area, so I've got MyBama just kind of running there. I wouldn't recommend doing that maybe in a classroom or a lab machine, but for a space that is yours, perhaps at home or your office machine, and you can dial that up to, wow, a lot. So I thought 180 was the max, but no, it's 360. So I'm kind of middle of the road there. So you could change that, because having to relog into MyBama over and over and over again is a good way to memorize your password, but not so great if you're trying to actually get stuff done. So that's your next ninja tip there. So that's MyBama. We do a lot of things through MyBama. That's the way we access a lot of the things that we do here on campus, and I'll be jumping back and forth. Oh, yeah. Also in MyBama, you can check your contact information just to make sure those things are up to date. If you go to either your faculty tab, there's this banner self-service window right here. It might be on a different place. I think you can reconfigure these windows as to how they appear. Mine's up here at the top left. But you can check your personal information. It's just a good idea to make sure that stuff's up to date, your contact information. Should there ever be an occasion to be contacted, it's a good idea to have those numbers and addresses current. But the next thing on this list, one of my favorite things, I just discovered this a couple, 3, 4 years ago, the photo class list. This is so cool. Okay, so I'm memory challenged, right? So I'm really happy to look down and see that I'm wearing pants. Okay, it's not quite that bad yet, but it's getting there. So the photo class list, again, I teach. I have this thing about names, right? I have trouble remembering names. And I want my students, you know, I really do try to remember names. But there's this thing called the photo class list. It's on MyBama. Look at this. This is a triumph of Photoshop engineering right here, ladies and gentlemen. I made this myself. I said, kitty cat, that's actually my cat. That's good. Wish I owned that cat, because I would be a millionaire. But that's Grumpy Cat. Anyway, so that link on MyBama under your faculty tab and banner self-service, photo class list, shows you your students. Here's a little caveat. It is your students as they appeared. These are their actual ACT card pictures. Okay? And here in Alabama, you get that ACT card picture made typically on the first day of orientation. So I teach a 400 level class. So typically there's 3 or 4 years that have gone between this picture and the student sitting before me in the classroom. So oftentimes there's a great deal of change that occurs. Certainly different hairstyles and things, but they tend to resemble what they look like in here. But this helps me a ton. My class is typically between 10 and 15 students, so I will shrink that thing up and print it out, old school, right, paper. I print it out and I affix it to the inside flap of my little class manila envelope. So that helps me a great deal when it comes to memorizing names. Because you want to be able to memorize your students' names. And I'm so envious. Some of you have that ability. I meet people like this that can remember names, and that totally freaks me out. So good for you if you have that. But if not, the photo class list is really your friend. So at the Faculty Resource Center, which is where I spend my days, we support the enterprise-wide educational technologies in use at the University of Alabama. Number one, our main thing is Blackboard. Any Blackboard people here? Used Blackboard before? We're going to actually do some, in-depth kind of Blackboard looking here in a few minutes. It's a little bit different using it from an instructor perspective from a student perspective. But Blackboard is the #1 thing that we support. It is the official learning management system at the University of Alabama, and chances are your classes that you teach will be integrated with Blackboard. It's not a mandatory thing, but right now we have roughly 75% of the courses that are taught at the University of Alabama use Blackboard to some degree. So we are here to help you with that. So Blackboard is big for us. There are these other technologies here that interact with Blackboard, that interface with it. We'll start over here with Turning Point, student response systems, clickers. Turning Point gives you, the Turning Point software enables you to create interactive presentations. So that had I chosen that today, if you all had a clicker, I could throw up a slide here and say, who's your favorite football team? And I could get your response when you entered it on the device. It works via radio frequency. There's a receiver built into the front of the room that would tabulate that data and display it for you. So there are some classes that use that to even give grades. Some folks use it for attendance. We support this technology. By the way, it also interfaces very nicely with Blackboard. Your students, when they buy their clicker, there is a device ID on the back of the thing. So they go into Blackboard and register their clicker to their account, and their responses are then recorded for you as grades. So we support Blackboard, we support Turning Point, and the company that makes that is Turning Technologies. The nerd strap, is optional. I got that at a conference. Your mileage may vary. So the next one is, the next technology we support is Turnitin. Anybody familiar with Turnitin? Y'all seen this before? Okay. It's mostly known as plagiarism detection, which is a big scary thing, right? That's big and scary. Turnitin is a service that compares papers that are submitted to it against this ginormous database of previously submitted papers. So it will help you detect plagiarism. Something that it will also do, and we'll talk about this individually in a moment, is it will help you assist your students and improve their writing skills. I mean, that's what it's mainly for. We don't want to do gotcha. We want to help you learn how to write. Blackboard Collaborate is a technology that is a synchronous conferencing system, gives you live audio and video chat. There's an interactive whiteboard. We'll see the slide here in a moment. And then there's Box, which we'll talk about in a moment, that is an online collaboration and file storage cloud-based tool. That's a long description. So Blackboard, what does Blackboard do for you? That's what you all want to know. Blackboard, for you as an instructor, also for me, gives me an online grade book. I can have discussions, wikis, and blogs. I can do assignments, tests, quizzes. I can do all these things. I can share documents, any kind of digital material I can share with my students. I can also use Blackboard to send my final grades over to my BAMA. That's a big deal around the end of the semester time. And if you teach a 100, 200 level class, you also have to submit midterm grades. So there's a very cool mechanism that allows Blackboard to talk to my BAMA to send grades to and fro. So that is a very nice system. It's very helpful. For instance, one of the things I do with Blackboard is I no longer print paper syllabi. I make my syllabus available to my students in Blackboard. Of course, we review it, but I make it available that way. So I'm saving trees, which is great. We need more trees. So again, clickers. Again, a lot of people will use clickers to survey their students. You can, again, you do this in real time. You get student opinions during class time. It's live, it's interactive. Use clickers for that. There's a tool within Blackboard that interfaces clickers to Blackboard. Tegrity, I forgot to mention that earlier in the big list. Tegrity is the university's lecture capture system. So what Tegrity does is Tegrity will make a recording of your lecture, which includes your voice and anything that is going on the screen. It interfaces with Blackboard also. The really cool thing about Tegrity, in my opinion, is that you make these recordings, your students can then review them, but suppose your student has a recollection as they're reviewing your lecture that you use the term searchable in a PowerPoint slide somewhere in your presentation. So if we were searching this presentation, Tegrity allows you to go in somehow through magic elves. I don't know how it works, but you can go in and search the text of the PowerPoint slides with Tegrity. And when it finds it, you will be taken to the point in the recording where that term appears. Wow, that's pretty, that's future stuff right there, and here we are. And so when you make those recordings, most of the multimedia classrooms on campus are set up automatically. That is, everything is plumbed to be recorded by Tegrity. There's also a software-only version of the recorder that your students or you can download and make recordings of themselves. So for instance, if you had to miss a class, you could make a presentation using Tegrity and share it with your students that way. Very handy for that. But Tegrity is a very neat tool. Again, we support that directly at the Faculty Resource Center and also for graduate students too. See? Happy face. If we didn't support you, there would not be a happy face there. So, again, there's Turnitin. Plagiarism detection is what it's mainly known for, but it helps you evaluate your students and improve their writing skills. There's also a peer review function, so you can have students review each other's work within Turnitin. It's a very cool resource that we have. Blackboard Collaborate. Let me make sure I get the list of stuff. App sharing, breakout rooms, polls, but not like the clicker polls. An interactive whiteboard, live audio and video, chat. It's pretty cool. It is a few steps above, say, Skype. So if you're going to use Skype with your class, but it also interacts directly with Blackboard. It's made by Blackboard, so one would expect that that would work well. A relatively new tool, we've had this for about the last year and a half, is Box. Do I have any Dropbox people here? Anybody use Dropbox? Okay, Dropbox is pretty popular, so you've got the concept already of Box. It is cloud-based file sharing, collaboration, and storage. The university made an agreement with Box about 2 years ago, and now every faculty, staff member, and student has the ability to create a Box account. You'll get 10 gigabytes of storage by default. If you need additional storage, if you're working on a project that requires you to have additional storage, reach out to the IT service desk and you can arrange for additional storage. The big difference between Box here at the university versus Dropbox is that Box has been approved by our security people for HIPAA and FERPA documentation. So Box can be used to share and collaborate with others about confidential information. So that's the biggest difference between Box and Dropbox. I'm going to take a little detour here and show you how to get to Box because it's a bit subtle if you haven't already set it up. Here we are again at My Bama. I've already logged in. There's this Tech tab, which just sort of lurks over here. In fact, before we got Box, I had never ever visited the Tech tab, but that's how you set up your Box account. So go over to the Tech tab, and again, on my configuration for My Bama, there is a services window, and then down here there is a link or a couple of links for UA Box. Let's scroll down a little bit. And I'm by nature a Mac person, and this is a PC, but we're doing okay. We're getting along. Any Mac people here? Yeah, there's so many. When I first started doing it, there's like one person. So for Box, to set up Box, you click right here, UA Box Login or First Time Setup. If it is your first time to set it up, when you click that, you'll be presented with a user agreement, like we get for everything else, right? That we never read. We just usually click through. I didn't read it. I don't know what I agreed to, but I love Box, so I went for it. So you click that user agreement. Typically, your account will be created very quickly. There might be some delay, so don't panic if you click on it and you're not instantaneously taken to your Box account. There is some database handshaking that has to go on between our system and the folks at Box, but rest assured that your account will be set up and you'll then have access to cloud-based storage and collaboration. We also offer workshops about Box, so I'm hoping to see some of you guys there. But that is Box. A very neat tool. We use it quite a bit. I've become quite dependent on it. Oh yeah, that was Plan C. I also have my presentation in Box. So I was ready today. And of course, because I was ready, everything worked on the laptop. So we're going to talk about, so what's going to happen next is we're going to jump into Blackboard. I'm going to show you some things that typically I do in one of our workshops. It's called Blackboard Basics. So we're going to go to that. I start with saying that there are two ways to get to Blackboard. Our instance of Blackboard is actually hosted by the Blackboard company. So somewhere in a data center in Virginia, there are a bunch of file servers with the University of Alabama's instance of Blackboard on it. We can link to it through my Bama. There's a link up at the top right called Blackboard. You can access it that way. If you click that, you'll be taken right to it. We're already logged in my Bama, so we'll jump right to that. But should there ever be an occasion where my Bama is not available for whatever reason, you can go directly to Blackboard at ualearn.blackboard.com. I'm sorry I don't have a slide for that. But again, that will take you directly to Blackboard. And at that point, you would log in with your MyBama username and password. But again, since we're already logged into MyBama, this is a more convenient way to get there. So I will click upon Blackboard. I will be authenticated. It's good to have a little authentication during the day, don't you think? And so here is Blackboard. This is the default window that you are taken to. It's the My Institution page, which has some various things, most of which we're not going to dwell on today. So there's a My Institution page. There's also a My Courses page that looks really very similar to me. The main thing that we're concerned about at this page is, well, the main thing that I'm concerned about is this course list. So I see courses, if you can read that, courses where I'm listed as an instructor. So there are different roles within Blackboard. There are instructors. There's a GTA role. I suspect many of you will have that. There's a student role. There's several other roles that are escaping me at the moment. So I see a list of the courses that are available to me that I'm involved in. Now I teach a lot of workshops, so I have a lot of courses. Some of these are actual courses, like there's my actual course for this fall. And they will usually start also, by the way, with our term designation. 2015-40 is the fall term. The spring term is 10. Summer, I think, is 20. I don't usually teach in the summer, so that sort of evades me. But that is what 2015-4 is the fall term of 2015. So we just broke that code. I created a workshop course for us to use today, so let's go to that. So we'll click on that. The biggest difference using Blackboard as an instructor versus using it as a student is the fact that as an instructor, we get to add stuff to Blackboard. We get to add content that we want to share with our students. Students can upload assignments, they can contribute to discussions and wikis and blogs, but they don't really get to add content that gets shared with other students. That's reserved for us as instructors. And along those lines, students also do not get a course management panel as we do as instructors. So when we look at student view in a few minutes, you'll see that that will not be there. So the first thing I'd like to start out with you is how to add stuff to Blackboard. Again, this is a brand new course that was created by the Blackboard system. It is essentially empty. They come out of the box looking like this. So you have these little course menus over here. It's a web-based application in case you've never used Blackboard. It's a web application. You click on links and things happen. I mean, that's the bottom line. One of the great things I like about Blackboard as an instructor is that when I hover over something, I will see, it will tell me what it is. I call that the instructor's friend. I use some apps that I teach that also do that. I really like that. So when you see a little dashed box and I hover over it, that means that the link has no content. Just kind of a reminder to you that there's nothing there. So there are some other tools and whatnot there. At the university, for face-to-face classes, we do not dictate, and by we, I mean whatever the administrator, certainly the Faculty Resource Center doesn't dictate how you organize your course. So you're free to organize that however you'd like. I try to keep my organization just as simple and basic as possible. And along those lines, given that my course meets only once a week, I typically break my course structure in Blackboard into weeks. So we're going to add a content area that we're going to call week 1. So to add things, we go to the plus sign. Get it? Okay, somebody, imagine all the engineers that work so hard. It's like, well, what symbol can we use to add? Oh, plus, yes. So we're going to add, if you hover over the plus sign, and again, students don't get that. We're special, right? We're instructors. We get to add a content area. The way things typically go in Blackboard is when you add something, you will be requested by means of this orange asterisk, which is a very difficult combination of words to say. Try saying orange asterisk over and over. It's really hard to do. When you see that, that means you're required to enter something here. Now, in the last workshop, I named it week 1. I will do so again. I went back and deleted it. I reset everything. So I have to give this thing a name. So calling it week 1, I can choose at this point to make it available to users. That is, your students will be able to see it if I indicate by checking that box. I can change that later. We're not committing to anything at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and make it available to users. Then I will submit. When I do that, when I click the submit button, that content area automatically gets added at the bottom of this menu. However, I am not committed to that either. So when I hover over this, hopefully you can see that there's a little two-headed arrow indicating that I can click and drag this thing about. So I can drag this thing, well, it worked in rehearsal. If you click on the arrow, there we go, and it becomes a four-headed arrow. I can move that item about. So now that week 1 appears at the top of my course list. There are a couple of graphical elements that one can add, again, via the plus sign. I can add a divider, which is just a line. It's not a link, it doesn't do anything. Its function is just to help separate things from other things in your list. So if I wanted to add 2, I'll go to add, hello. And I'm normally a Mac person, so this is kind of, the PC and I, we get along most of the time. Wink, okay. So I really want to make week 1 content area stand out there, so I put lines above and below. Chances are most of you are more gifted in graphic design than I am. So now week 1 sort of stands off by itself. So let's go to that content area that we just added. When I click week 1, the big window becomes the content area. There's no content, though. We need to add some content. So this is where the fun starts. This is where it gets to be interesting for you as instructors. Across the top here, build content assessments, tools, partner content, discover content are buttons. These are very subtle buttons. I wish they were more obvious, but they are indeed buttons. So when I hover over this, I get to see what kind of content I can potentially add. It could be as simple as an item, which is just explanatory information. There are no files associated with that. Or I can add a file. In this case, I'm going to add a file. So we get a longer sort of decision window here. But first of all, I get to select a file. There's that pesky orange asterisk again. So I have to name this file. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it file. This is also very exciting in a technologically nerdy sort of way. I can change the color that that text appears in to anything in this palette. Woo! Imagine the work that went into that. So I can pick any of these colors. And I share this with you because you can do this for any type of content that you add. A couple of semesters ago, I made an assignment in a content area, and I left it the default color, which is black. And the first night of my class, I do a little survey with my students. There's typically like 10 to 15 of them. I say, okay, does everybody know how to use Blackboard? And everybody's like, yeah, we know everything about Blackboard, yeah. And so I just left that. And I had an assignment, of course it was due. And I had a student that didn't submit the assignment, and the stated reason was that he did not know that the black text was actually a link. So I've now taken to creating my assignments as being blue. You know, your mileage may vary, but that's what I do. So now we've made it blue. Again, we're kind of conditioned to think that blue is a link. We can upload files from a computer. Let's go to Intro to Box. That's a good workshop, by the way. Come to that. I like doing that one. That's a lot of fun. I choose the file I want to upload. He said, it's very exciting doing live technology demonstrations. There we go. You got to click with authority. Okay, so I've given it a name. I've chosen a color. I've selected a file. There's the file. Notice it has a different name. It could be any name you want it to be. Got a few more options, a few more decisions we have to make here. Whether or not we open it in a new window, notice that the defaults are no for both of these items. We have, it's been reported to us that there are some folks who use devices called screen readers. If you have vision impairment of any kind, some people use devices called screen readers to read their computer content to them. It's been reported to us that sometimes opening content in a new window via Blackboard will sort of confound that screen reader and make it difficult for them. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to leave the default as no right there. This alignment button is not applicable to us. Again, the default is no, but that's something that is in Blackboard that we just can't make go away. So thankfully, the default is no, so we don't have to really make any decisions there. Cool feature. Again, there's this idea of permitting users to view the content. Yes or no. I can set that here. I can, of course, go back and change this later, but the default is yes for this. You can have Blackboard track the number of views. If you want to keep up with how many times your students are accessing your content, you can choose to turn that on. This is a neat thing. You can set date and time restrictions for when this content is visible. So if I choose to display after a certain date and time and display until a certain date and time, that will limit the period that students are able to view that content. Might be important to you. Again, the default is not to turn that on. So I will leave that as they are. Oh, and here's another little educational technology nerd thing. There's a submit button at the top too. Hey. It's odd the things you get excited about. And hopefully, if I did that correctly, yay! we've now created a file, and we get this indicator at the top that says success. File created. I call that the happy green bar of success. So when you do something and it works, you get the happy green bar of success. Hopefully you don't get the angry yellow bar of problem. You don't want that. That doesn't happen a lot, but just be advised that on occasion that will happen. You can just close that out there, but I like seeing the green. I think that's a nice thing. So now we've added a file to our content area. And that's what you'll be doing. You'll be adding content that you're going to share with your students. You can add your syllabus here. You could add just whatever kind of reading material. Blackboard doesn't care, again, what kind of file it is. I share videos and whatnot with my students, so it is a very useful tool for distributing information to your students. There are some tools along, we mentioned some of those tools. You see that by default, there's a button here for Tegrity classes. That would open the Tegrity window if I clicked on that. And I'm not going to do that at the moment, but you can add tools to Blackboard, again, via the plus sign. And we're going to add a tool link here. And there's a tool called Course Messages. I'm a nervous typer, so I type very slowly, sorry. So you get to name the tool, whatever you want to name it. Again, there's that pesky orange asterisk. But the type of tool is called Course Messages. I try to keep these things the same because I don't want to look at something and see Steve and it's Course Messages. You can make that tool available to users and you click Submit. I show you Course Messages. Let's take a quick look at it. This is a very simple messaging tool that is all completely contained within Blackboard. There's also an email tool that will allow you to send messages from the Blackboard course. I'm not a big fan of the Blackboard email tool. It does indeed send messages, and you can send emails to all of your students. However, it comes from sort of a weird-looking address, and that just kind of creeps me out a little bit. So I maintain course messages in my course. I have my students communicate with me that way. I encourage them. Of course, I share my email address with it, but this, with my students rather, but this is a way to keep all of that communication contained within Blackboard. So if you're teaching multiple courses, maybe you've got hundreds of students peppering you with emails, that could get pretty weird pretty fast. So I like course messages. Another ninja tip for Blackboard, when you get these messages, if you happen to be in Blackboard all the time, which I am not, course messages must be checked from within Blackboard. So I had an occasion where I give the talk about let's use course messages. I had a student send me a course message. I didn't check Blackboard that particular day, and my student felt sad. So I don't want to have that feeling again. So I can change the way I'm notified when I receive a course message. So we'll go through that. Up at the top right of our Blackboard window, where your name is, if you check on that, this will open a window, and I'm currently in the Settings tab here. So there's all sorts of things we're going to do here. But I'm going to take a quick look at personal information. This is where you can update. Now, this is different from the MyBama personal information, right? So I believe this is fed through MyBama, but let's look at Edit Personal Information. And this is where my cell phone number appears, so get your pens and paper. So this content is all fed directly from MyBama. We can't change that. There's my official username. Can't change that. You can, and this is, and I want to stress this, this is 100% optional for you and your students. But you could choose to enter your mobile phone number in this blank right here. And we'll see why in just a second. But again, completely optional. I've done communication features in Blackboard workshops where faculty go, can't we make our students enter their cell phones there so we can force them to get texts? Because that's what they do now. Well, that's what you do now. No, we don't want that. We don't want to force people to get text. That would be bad. But I've chosen to put my mobile phone number in there, and when you add that, we'll click submit. And there's that happy green bar of success, yay. So now what I want to go to is my notification settings. When I go there, I see this ginormous list of courses that I'm teaching, mostly through doing workshops, but I can globally change the notification settings for the courses that I'm teaching. So I'll choose that. And there is a way, as we scroll down, and we see that I've added my cell phone there. And you can share this with your students too. I don't know if you're going to get many takers of people entering their cell phone information, but so for all of these course activities under number 3, all of these things, we can choose how we're notified. So the default is to have all of these things go to our course dashboard, which is this business up here. I can choose to get an email whenever something happens, or I can choose to check the SMS text box to get notifications. So I've gone in for my courses, so I see course message received right here in the middle, and I want to change that to send me a text when I get a course message. That way, when one of my students sends me a course message within Blackboard, Blackboard will then send me a text that says, you have a course message in course whatever. Doesn't send me the actual message, which would be kind of cool. But sadly, it does not do that. But it does send me a text letting me know that there is a message. So hopefully I don't have the awkward business with the student because I forgot to check Blackboard for that day. So you can change your notification settings there. That is a ninja tip there for you. Let's submit. Okay. It's probably tired of me changing my notification settings. Well, again, live technology, folks. Do you want to proceed? Why, yes, I do. Oh, great. Wait until the action's complete. And by the way, this is kind of a busy time of year for Blackboard. So what you just saw was sort of the system processing my submit. And I, of course, did exactly the wrong thing, which was continue to hit the submit button. I should have been more patient. So that's another thing you could share with your students. So now I've edited those notification settings. Let's go real quick, and I did not get a chance to do this for my first group because I talked too long about course messages. Going back to my course, again, here's week 1. You can add also assignments, and this is what tripped my student up, right? So under assessments, and I get confused between assessment and assignment because they both start with those 3 letters. So you can add tests, you can build tests in within Blackboard, you can make assignments. Oh, a little side here too, if you're using Turnitin, notice that there is a separate Turnitin assignment type. Not going to go into that right now, but I'm just going to create a basic assignment here. So I click on assignment. There's that pesky asterisk again. So I get to add an assignment, and I'll just call this write a paper. Wouldn't you love to take my class? Just write a paper. You can add instructions here. You can attach files if you had more detailed instructions. When you create an assignment, it automatically, Blackboard that is, automatically creates a column in your grade center for that assignment. So again, pesky orange asterisk right here. Let's make this paper worth 100 points. You can create rubrics. You can use rubrics. Any rubric people here? I love me some rubrics. I highly recommend rubrics. They have changed my life. Just kind of a score sheet for your grading. Wow. But you can do all this directly within Blackboard. Sadly, I don't have time enough to talk to you about rubrics right now, but you could add a rubric there. You could choose to make an assignment available. You can allow multiple attempts. You can limit the availability of this assignment. I really like this. Deadlines. Again, I teach in media production. That's all about deadlines. So I have my assignment disappear after the due date. Let's enforce, the notion that deadlines are important. Again, you can track the views. You can add a due date, which will appear in the Blackboard calendar. That's another function that exists within Blackboard. You can set up groups within Blackboard, but I'm just going to send it to everybody. And when you're happy with all these decisions, we choose Submit. Yay. And so now that assignment appears in the content area. Maybe you're going to create a content area that's nothing but assignments. Maybe you're going to put the assignments in the week 1 content area. So how you structure that thing is up to you, but you want to give that some thought. Okay, so now I want to talk about student view. So we're special, we're instructors, we get a plus sign, and we get the course management menu here, right? Our students don't see that. And you're saying, well, Rick, show me that the students don't see that. Okay, I'm with you. I'm right behind you. So this button up here at the top right, go to student view. When we click that, we now see our course as our students see it when they log in. Notice, no plus sign, no course management menu. This is just a way to lord our goodness over. No, it's not. We get special stuff. So this is what our course looks like to our student. That whole visibility business, when we make things visible or not, I am constantly jumping back and forth between student and teacher view as I'm adding content to my course. I'm going to keep this as straightforward and as logical as possible, and I want to see exactly what they see when they go into the course. So let's take a look at what an assignment looks like. And this is what tripped up my student, right? Because I had an assignment. It was in black. Well, I didn't know that was a link. Okay, it's a link. Right? You hover your mouse over it, it does that. Anyway, so write a paper. Here's what it looks like for the student. Again, we're seeing this as the students see it. Oh, this paper is worth 100 points. I can, you could write the submission right within Blackboard. I really wouldn't want to do that. I would rather upload a file, and perhaps I clicked on that, or I can just attach a file, which in this case is a paper, so probably a Word document. And then when you're finished, you click Submit. So we're viewing this again as a student. We're called the demo student. FYI, the first time you click on Go to Student View, this demo student is added to your course. So don't think somebody added your course. I got rather excited one semester. I was like, oh boy, somebody added my course. No. Imagine my disappointment. So let's go back to the teacher view. I got a few minutes left. Okay, yay, I got to the assignment thing. Didn't make that for the first group, so you guys are way ahead of that. So let's go to, I mentioned that grade book very early on, right? So this is one of the things we get. Over here in our course management menu is the grade center. As your students submit these assignments, there is a needs grading area. So if I click on that, I see only the assignments. Hello. Hi there. I see only the assignments that have been uploaded by my students and are ready for grading. That's kind of a handy thing. I like being able to go there and just check things off. But let's take a look at the full grade center. This one's going to be a little sparse because, well, I don't have any students. I made this myself, and it's not affiliated with Banner, the student information system. But here is my demo student. So I see all these columns. I see, last name, first name, username. You can rearrange these columns. You could manage the column, how they appear, that sort of thing, whether or not they're visible to your students. But there's that assignment that we just added, that write a paper. And as I hover over that, I see that there's 100 possible points. I could either manually enter a grade here, or I could do that through grading the paper. So the grade book is very handy for your actual classes. Your students will automatically be populated in this list. so you don't have to manually add them or anything like that, which is a great feature of Blackboard. Go back to week 1. So we talked about adding an assignment, and the other assignments, the tests are created much the same way. Yes, here's what I wanted to leave you with today. Our website, frc.ua.edu. If you take nothing else away from this workshop today, please remember our website. On this website, we have all manner of helpful things. We create a great number of tutorials, and it's broken down for different technologies. Preparing to use Blackboard, Blackboard tutorials, that's the bulk of them. Testing tips, integrity, clickers, Turnitin, all of these resources. Most of these are PDFs. We have some videos, and this is what I spend most of my work life doing, is creating these things. We also have, the other part of my work life is planning and conducting workshops. So this is our workshop schedule. I hope you can join us. Seriously, y'all are welcome to join us. It's not just faculty, so please, please sign up for some workshops. You can sign up. There is a link to register for a workshop. Most of them are not super crowded, so if you just want to come, don't feel like you have to register. Feel free to just come by. We have some webinars coming up, and I actually use Blackboard Collaborate to do those webinars because I'm able to application share and do the interactive whiteboard and chat with folks. So we've got a full slate of workshops coming up. As you see, most of the workshops revolve around an individual technology. I've hit you with a lot of stuff today, but there's a Turnitin workshop. We talked about clickers yesterday. There's a box workshop. Those are really fun. Don't come to that one. I like that one. That's a fun one to do. So we've got just all manner of material. If you need assistance, if you have questions about Blackboard, if something's just not happening the way it needs to, give us a call. We have graduate student employees who answer our phones, and we all work together to solve these issues that you might encounter. But please, please come see us, come to a workshop, check out our tutorials, and I wish you the best of luck. I was asked in the first session, a friend of mine noted, okay, so the Roll Tide thing, how many new people we got here? A lot of new people, okay. So Roll Tide is both kind of a greeting and a response. Okay, so somebody says, Roll Tide. You're getting it. This is good. Okay, so, well, Roll Tide to you all. And I wish you the best. Good luck at the workshop and good luck with your teaching. And please, please come see us. Love to have you. We have a lot of fun in our workshops. And I hope this has been beneficial to you. But Roll Tide.